Let's give another hand to Andy Rogers on the organ. Thanks, Andy. So my name is Ariel Wan. I'm the Director of Programming, Marketing, and Sales for the Michigan Theater. Thank you for coming out in the snow, apparently. It's snowing outside, it's freezing, and I don't enjoy that. Welcome to tonight's screening of General Magic. This film is a part of our Science on Screen film series, which is an initiative of the Coolidge Corner Theatre, presented with major support from the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. If this is your first time coming to a Science on Screen screening, welcome. I love this film series because I get to pair STEM-themed films with incredibly smart people who lead mind-blowing discussions afterwards, and today is no exception. General Magic is the fourth film in our Science on Screen series. In March, we are going to have an encore screening of The Bit Player, which is about another U of M alum who is known as the father of informational theory, Claude Shannon. That will screen on Wednesday, March 5th. And after that, we will be showing a documentary called Human Nature, which is about the CRISPR technology and the ethics behind gene editing. That film will take place on Wednesday, March 18th. For tonight's screening, you'll want to stick around after the film for a post-film discussion with our distinguished guests. Moderating the discussion will be Dean of Engineering, Alec Gallimore. He will be joined on stage with U of M professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Education and Information, Elliot Soloway, who is also the professor of our final panelist, who's the iPod inventor, iPhone co-inventor, Nest founder, and Future Shape principal, Tony Fadell, who will be joining us via Skype. We've asked that you tweet your questions for Tony and Elliot. You can at Michigan Theater with hashtag #myquestionis, or you can email mishtheater82@gmail.com. So that's right down here. Don't do it during the movie, because that's rude. Do it after the movie's over, or if you think of questions right now, you can tweet at us. So yeah, sit back, relax, and enjoy this fantastic documentary. Thank you. All right. What'd you guys think of the movie? Yeah. It was kind of fun to watch what the internet looked like back in the 90s and early 2000s, and how like graphics it's so crazy, all these little pixels. It was a good time. Hopefully you think of some questions. If you think of any, just shoot an email. You can shoot an email to mishtheater82@gmail.com, or you can tweet at the Michigan Theater, use hashtag #myquestionis. You can just tweet directly at Tony. Tony is actually coming to us via Skype Live, and he's in Paris. So he's either gonna wake up at 3 a.m. or he's already awake and join us for this special Q&A. So when he does come on, we gotta like really cheer him on, because I'm sure 3 a.m. is a little hard. But first, I'd like to introduce our moderator. Dr. Alec D. Gallimore is the Robert J. Vlasic Dean of Engineering at the University of Michigan. Dean Gallimore is a rocket scientist, and in 2019 was elected to the National Academy of Engineering, among the highest professional distinction accorded to an engineer. He earned a BS in aeronautical engineering from Rensselaer, an MA and PhD degrees in aerospace engineering with a focus on plasma physics from Princeton. He is the Richard F. and Eleanor A. Towner Professor of Engineering and Arthur F. Thurnau Professor in the Department of Aerospace Engineering, and founder and co-director of the Plasma Dynamics and Electric Propulsion Laboratory. He is also a member of the Applied Physics faculty. He is co-founder of Electrodynamic Applications, Inc., a high-tech aerospace firm in Ann Arbor specializing in plasma device engineering. Let's all give Dr. Alec Gallimore a round of applause as he comes out. Thank you. Next person that's going to be on stage is Elliot Soloway. He is an Arthur F. Thurnow Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the College of Engineering, the School of Education, and the School of Information. He was Tony Fadell's advisor when Tony was a student at Michigan. Professor Soloway has long been an advocate for the development of mobile technologies and for their use in transforming the way that K-12 students learn. He encouraged app development on campus when it was in its infancy, and his students were among the first to develop and monetize mobile apps. 2 of his students developed an app that was acquired by the university and released as the official U of M app. Professor Soloway's research has led to the development of technology and curriculum for K-12 education, which has manifested in 2 startup companies. Most recently, he has co-founded the U of M Center for Digital Curricula, which is helping K-12 schools to achieve their digital transformation. Let's give a round of applause for Elliot Soloway. Welcome, welcome. So I'm going to check to see, getting set up with Tony to join us on screen. In the meantime, I would love to hear your reactions to seeing the film.
Mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling, right? I mean, just wow. And the energy. I mean, one thing I thought with Tony was he was very three-dimensional, right? You could feel the pain when something didn't work. You could just feel the pain. And that's Tony. I mean, that really is Tony. Up and down, up and down. And yes, I was his advisor, but he told me what to do all the time. As an undergraduate, he would tell me what to do. He was right, usually. But it was an amazing movie, and trying to figure out how do we do it now? How do we take the students today and make them into tomorrow? I mean, that is our challenge. So I loved it.
So my impression was exactly the same. I'm sort of a stargazer, and I always think about the future. I think a lot of us in this technology business imagine what the future is like. For me, it's always been about sending astronauts to other planets and developing these amazing spaceships that go 200,000 miles an hour to get them there very quickly. And I just saw so much of how I've spent my career so far thinking about how do we colonize Mars, but a group of people thinking about what the future of human life would be. And they were so prescient. It was unbelievable. I mean, they got it spot on. Yeah. And one of the things I was trying to understand is, when do you have the right vision, but for some reason you just aren't exactly the right time when technology is ready to latch onto that wave, as that analogy is. So it was really powerful for me, too.
And the fact that you do have the ideas and it's not the right time. Yes. It's not the right time, and it's killer. Yeah. That's killer. And you heard it with Tony, too. I mean, there was a 10-year period where nothing worked. Right. Nothing worked. And then he kept at it. I think that's a really important story. Yeah. Don't give up.
That's right. What was Tony like as a student? You alluded to it a little bit, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit more.
Well, I was fortunate. Larry Page was also at the same sort of time. And I had the students, and I talked to them. And I remember a story, it's just about Larry, but it's similar. He wanted to do something with a handheld computer. I said, Larry, I don't know if that's going to work. He said, I don't know either, but I'm going to give it a try. Yeah. I mean, it's that energy, it's that commitment to something, to do something, even though it might not work. Nice. And Tony was absolutely that way. I remember buying components for a mobile computer, the screen, the little screen, and all of it. And it was thousands of dollars. I want to kill them. But okay, we got to try it. We got to build it now for what's tomorrow. And so he built a mobile computer out of parts. Yeah.
I'm gonna let you pause real quick because we have Tony. Let me introduce him because he also has a very long paragraph of accomplishments. So Tony is an active investor and entrepreneur with a 30-plus year history of founding companies and designing products that profoundly improve people's lives. He is the principal at Future Shape, an investment and advisory firm coaching deep tech startups. Currently, Future Shape is coaching 250-plus startups, innovating game-changing technologies. He is the founder and former CEO of Nest, the company that pioneered the Internet of Things. Tony was the SVP of Apple's iPod division and led the team that created the first 18 generations of the iPod and the first 3 generations of the iPhone. Throughout his career, Tony has authored more than 300 patents. In May 2016, Time named the Nest Learning Thermostat, the iPod, and the iPhone as 3 of the 50 most influential gadgets of all time. Let's cheer really loud for Tony Fadell.
Hey, Tony.
Hey there.
Tony, good morning. How are you doing?
Hey, Alec. Hey, Elliot. It's very early here. It's very early.
Well, we appreciate it. We'll get started right away. We've all just seen the wonderful movie that you're in and learned a lot about General Magic. And let me just start by asking, what was it about General Magic that intrigued you enough that you had to join the company?
Well, it was a very secretive time, and I wasn't able to, get out of Ann Arbor a lot. And so I was always reading your magazines. There was no internet. You didn't get daily or news by the second like you do today. So you would read and read, and there was this column in the back of Macweek magazine, and I would read it religiously, and it was all about kind of the ins and outs and the secrets of Silicon Valley, because really that was the locus of all technology development around the world for what I like to do. And so there was this 2 little paragraphs that said the Mac team has created the General Magic. We don't know what they're doing, but Andy Hertzfeld, Bill Atkinson, Susan Kerr, Joanne Hoffman, we're all there, and we're all trying to figure out what it is. It sounds very exciting. And to me, I was like, those are my heroes. I need to go figure out what they're doing, or need to join that team and go learn from them. And that was really what it was all about. And I was, as you saw in the movie, I just knocked down the door. I had no idea, but I just kept knocking and knocking for about 6 to 9 months to finally get in there, and just with perseverance to make it happen. So,
What do you hope people get out of the movie? What do you want people to take away from the movie?
So, there's lots of storylines in the movie, but the biggest one is failure is going to happen. That's how you're going to learn. The most successful people in the world are not in their early 20s. The people who go on to really do success is when they've learned and gotten their PhD in life, in entrepreneurialism, in creating companies. Not just what they learn in school. They take what they learned at school, but then they apply it. And when they apply it, as you know, you don't have success right away. You have to, take what you've learned, execute on it, and then what happens is you find out you didn't have all the data, you don't know all the details, and you fail. And it's okay. Just keep on moving and keep on trying, but don't let that be a setback. Look, when you learn to walk, you didn't just get up and say, I want to walk, and walk one day. You fell 2,000 times, and everybody just said, keep going, yeah. Your parents were encouraging you. Just remember to have that same voice in your head to go, yes, I'm going to keep at it. Now you got to learn as you go. You can't just be blind to the failure and just keep trying without, adapting. But that's what it's all about. And we do that with language. We do that in every single thing when we're younger. And all of a sudden, we lose that along the way. And, because we're worried about people judging us or whatever. Everybody, not just me, but everybody goes through these stages. And that's what the students are going to do. That's what you're going to do. Even as a parent, I do that every day as a parent. I screw up. I'm not a great parent, but I'm trying to learn. And I watch what happens. So that's what I think is coming away is don't fear failure. Embrace it, learn from it, and move on, because that's the way we all really succeed in life.
Great. So we have a lot of students here, and one of the things that actually we share in common is that from an early age, we both sort of found where we wanted to go. You wanted to do software and that technology world. I wanted to go in the space business, if you will. But for many people, they're not quite sure what they want to do. And so how do you think about passion, and what kind of advice would you give to students about how they might go about finding what their life passion is?
Well, that's for each person to figure out. Usually it's just by trying things, right? You go. I always say that during school, the best thing you can do is intern. And intern at lots of places. A lot of people go, "Oh, I'm going to be an engineer, or I'm going to be a lawyer, or what have you," and they go through school, and maybe they have one internship. And that's at the end when they're senior year or whatever, in whatever career they're trying to get into. And then all of a sudden they wake up and they go, is this really what I wanted to do? And so even if you could go intern or just be the kid in the cafe or cafeteria or whatever, break room, cleaning up at a company or an industry that you want to work in, so you can learn from that and see it, the sooner you can see other people doing what you think you want to do and experience that, and you go, oh, that is what I want to do. Or you go, no, that's not what I want to do. This is crazy. I think of a guy who's a friend of mine who was a very famous singer. And he was in the banking industry. And he thought he always wanted to be a banker. And 2 years into it, he was like, this is not what I want to do. And he went through 6 or 8 years of going through school and everything, and he turned out to be an incredible artist. His name's Aloe Black. And he was banking, and now he's a world famous artist, and he hated that, and he wished he would have just, done more of what he thought he wanted to do. Oh, sorry. There we go. So I encourage you to get out there, try what you think you want to do, and that's where you're going to find your life passion, not by just, thinking about it.
Question for you, Professor.
Well, do you remember? You came to me and you said, we want to be part of the group, and it changed the group. And as an undergraduate, you made an impact. You did things organizing us. And we have this mechanism now, this independent study mechanism, which not a lot of students take on, but they should. All the students should be doing independent study, joining project teams, just what Tony did, and changing everything and participating. But they don't do a lot of that, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Elliot. When we did this, you and I created an independent study program for me to create companies, to create technologies and things, and got a grade for it. And that was the way that I was able to try things and do business, not just study, but do business and talk to people about it and go out to Silicon Valley and learn. And so the more you can do that, that's so important. And people are like, oh, I already have enough homework. I have enough things to do. It's like, no, go and try this, because homework and tests are not what life's going to be about. Go work on the things that life's about, and then take that forward so you really know what your direction is in life. And then you can come back and learn the things you need to learn for that direction. Just by taking classes, you're not going to figure out what your life's goals are. Though you're going to learn some things, but you don't know if that's going to apply to what you need moving forward.
So we saw that the technology has changed a lot since the beginning of the 90s and so on and so forth. So is education
Yes.
at places like the College of Engineering. So imagine a student like Tony, but not in 1985 or 1987, but in 2020, 2021. What would a Tony Fadell of the early 2020s do? How would that experience be for him compared to what it was like back in the 80s?
Well, again, it's this mechanism that we have that not enough students take advantage of because of all the courses and the testing and the requirements. They don't know how to fit in these project courses. And I think that is what every bright young person needs to do, is latch onto a group, a team, a professor, and learn, and learn to be what you want to be. But it's just very difficult. I think it's much more difficult than when Tony was here, because we have all these requirements, and they're for good reason, I understand, but we have to get them to do projects. So that would be my recommendation.
Learn by doing.
Absolutely.
More projects, more projects.
More projects. Okay, great. One of the things that was said in the movie was that General Magic was the first concept IPO, which was basically the company didn't have product, but it had really good ideas and smart people that convinced investors that it was worth spending $96 million during the time of the IPO. Now that you're the principal for Future Shape, how did that experience at General Magic form your investment philosophy and decisions for new and potential transformative ideas?
Well, I always see that now, you have to be able to show disruption, and you have to show, at least in what we invest in, show disruption and show how they're going to change the world and dramatically change the world. But it has to be constraint-based. They have to understand what they're doing and how they're going to get that crazy idea to market in a short enough time frame, because you can't go raise tons and tons of money. I think we just saw what happened over the last 3 years. All of these companies, whether it was a kick scooter company or Uber or Lyft or bed companies or or crazy software companies, they thought the money was endless. Yeah. And now we're finding out reality and gravity comes into play. And now a lot of people are going to be shedding a lot of things, because you're just not going to have that kind of basic, you're going to have those basic constraints now. And that was just a moment in time. It was a bubble. And we can't get used to that and get lazy about having to ship our art, ship that disruption to the market very quickly to learn from the market and then iterate. And definitely we don't think that what we just saw is going to be the future. It's going to get more and more difficult. But if you have a great idea and you're able to articulate what it is, the value it is, and understand not just the technology and the product, but understand the business. We hear a lot about product market fit. Mm-hmm. It's really about business product market fit. You got to understand the business model at some point, and that's what investors are looking for. And that's what we look for, is not just entrepreneurs with great ideas, but entrepreneurs who understand that they have to learn about the business angle and want to work with people. Maybe they might not know all the business things, but as long as they're open and listening to people who understand how to help create businesses and have created businesses, we can then educate and mentor them to get into that right zone, so that we can get other investors involved, other smart, experienced people. Because another thing is, it's not just about money, is getting smart, experienced people to come on the team and help. And if you're young, whether that's in your 20s or 30s, and you want other experienced people, you better be speaking the business of language, the language of business. Mm-hmm. And that is what's going to really get people who you might want to hire that are much more experienced than you to get on the team, because you're not just a crazy idealistic technologist or engineer or what have you, but you're really thinking about the business, and you want other people who are smart about the business to come and help take this technology and really impact the world. And the only way you do that is with a full story, not just we got great technology.
That's great. One of the big questions that comes up in the startup culture, especially in tech and Silicon Valley, is the notion of diversity. And as you know, the University of Michigan embraces the notion of diversity, equity, inclusion, because we believe DEI is incredibly important to have the most talented people doing the most amazing work. Any thoughts about the role of how do you promote and maintain diversity in the startup world?
Well, that is really a great question. When you get out of school, the only people you tend to gravitate to are the people of your age. And, sometimes you're intimidated by working with people older than you, because either they have experience that you don't have, so you're like, oh, I'm insecure about that, or you're just trying to sell them your idea, but not really try to ask them for advice, because you're saying, I know as much as you do. And so what I've learned over time is that teams and great businesses, great companies are multi-generational. And they're also diverse in terms of the types of thinking, not just male, female, but also, marketing and sales and technology. And too often when you're young, you think about solely the people around you and bringing them in, and the people and your friends, as opposed to getting diverse opinions and from all different age ranges to be able to come together and make a company that is more inclusive in terms of not just people, but also ways of thinking to get different types of customers. And that is also regional. So that means not just age groups and your gender, and also, your background in terms of ethnicity inside of a country, but also ethnicity around the world, if you really want to make that kind of global impact. And so I always encourage our teams, think much more broadly about the talent on your team and how you're going to build it. And a lot of times, when you get in the startup world, people are like, I just want to hire experienced people. And I'm like, look, you can only hire so many experienced people. You got to also hire students as well and interns to help you broaden the way you think. And the crazies, like, I'm still crazy, but I'm nowhere near as crazy as I was when I was 20, 22, whatever. And you want to get that fresh energy. So if you're a student and or you're just out of school and you're trying to build a company, make sure you get some older talent and talent from around the world. But if you're older and, like me, look at the hair, you saw the movie, go get the people with lots of hair and bring them into the company. So, you need that. You always need fresh ideas from all around, because you're going to get too insular. And if you see these companies that, these older companies, they never brought in the younger talent or the differentiated talent, and they just get stale over time. And that's why they kind of die. And then new companies go and replace them, because they didn't bring in those fresh perspectives.
Outstanding. One of the things Elliot and I were talking about was the notion of timing and kind of latching on to waves in terms of when the technology is ready to be fielded. And General Magic was an example of perhaps being ahead of the wave, if you will, or not being ahead of the times in terms of technology. But you also have experience through the iPod, iPhone, and NES, where it was just the right timing. So what's your philosophy on timing, and how does one, as technologist, understand when it is the right time, or maybe it's not the right time for a certain technology?
Great question, Alec. What we learned from General Magic is there's two things. There's technology timing, exactly, right? Can you make the product that you want to make with the more or less existing technology, or just on the verge of being ready to be brought to market? But the other most important part is society ready for it. You can pull society just a little bit further from where they're at. But if you go too far, people are like, do I need that? And you saw that in the movie. People are like, yeah, that seems cool, but why does it matter to me? General Magic was doing downloadable apps. They were doing email. We were doing wireless email, a handheld device with touchscreen and all these things. And people are like, what? No one had ever seen this stuff before. It looked like it came from some alien planet. If you look at what when the iPod shipped, what was it about? There was already MP3s, right? People already had Palm Pilots. They had things in their pockets, or they had cell phones. So it was understood. People didn't even have cell phones when we were talking in 1994 about something in your pocket that you could do email with. They didn't even have cell phones at that point. So the customers have to understand the need. And the only way they understand the need is if they're encountering those problems, right? And, there was no even internet. There was no information. So people are like, well, what are we doing? So you got to make sure society is close enough to your idea, but you can't be so close that other people are doing the same thing you're doing. You want to be just ahead of that and doing something that's different, but that the customers, whether that's a consumer or a business or government or whatever, can understand what their needs are, and then they can project those needs and how those fix it. So you have to have that you're in this right window, not too early, not too late or at the present, but just ahead, so that you can communicate to them in their language, and they get it and they go, okay, I'm going to try.
Question for you that's related to this. How do you work with students to help them understand how their ideas could meet reality, the needs of reality?
That's a hard one to work with, because your baby's ugly, and the students, they don't like to hear that their baby's ugly. You know, and you try and deliver the news with sweetness, but it's a challenge. There is this. You can't say, oh, that's really good, that's really good. No, you got to be critical, right? Yeah. You got to be critical, but you got to be able to deliver it in a way that they can hear it. Yeah. And what's interesting, right, is what's going to happen in the next 10 years. We're preparing the students for quantum computers and all kinds of things that you can't even imagine today, right? And they are going to be managers of those technologies 10 years from now. And it's our job to prepare them for that. Wow. So it is a challenge, but I think working with them, talking to them, and telling them their baby is ugly, you know, in a nice way,
With a smile.
Truth hurts sometimes, but you have to be, that's our job every day as mentors, is to really say, look, this is important, but let me show you what's not there. And if you're not listening, sometimes there's lots of times I coach entrepreneurs and they just don't want to hear it. And you're like, sometimes you just got to let them fail, right? And because failure, as we saw, is the best way to learn. So if you can guide them or whatever, but if you put that in their brain and they're starting to fail, then they're like, oh, now I understand what they were saying. Yeah. But you got to put that seed in their brain and that virus of doubt, so that one day when they hit that wall, yeah, they're going to go, oh, now I know what they're talking about. And that's when they learn and they put it all together. So sometimes they just have to fail, no matter how much we try to help.
So one of the things that also struck me about the movie was so much of what drove people in the company in General Magic was this utopian view of the future, which we, to a certain extent, from a technological point of view, we've reached out now. But what also happened was a bit of a distraction to the reality of meeting deadlines, and we have to ship products. So how do you sort of marry the two of wanting to have a vision and a big dream and a big idea what the future could be, but with the realities of actually the rubber meets the road, we actually have to ship products? How do you do that balancing act?
That is definitely a balancing act. And, the thing that we all have to realize is that you should have bold visions. And sometimes you have to keep those very, very bold visions to yourself. You can't even tell a lot of people about those bold visions because they'll say you're totally crazy. Mm-hmm. So and early on, I would always talk about those bold visions and like, yeah, but what about today? And then they go, oh, he's just, he's wild-eyed. And so what you have to do is you have to have that vision of where you want to go, but parcel it up into bite-sized chunks over time to get people on board. And if anybody asks where you're going, you go, oh, we're going over here. But and that's where I think we're all headed, and let me tell you why. But really, let's focus on these first baby steps to get there. And the more you can make those concrete with a long-term vision, that's what is empowering, because people go, oh, we're going there, but here's the first step, and it's a concrete thing. Because if you just say, here's point A and here's point B, and it's 10 years in the future, and you don't have any steps in between, people are like, it's not grounded in reality. But if you can show at least the first 2 or 3 steps along that route and show how it's not just technology, but there's a business wrapped around it, then you can actually get people on board who are experienced and go, okay, now I see what they see. And you just have to parcel it out, but don't always just focus on this. Really spend most of your time on that and go, and by the way, once we do this, this is what's there. And at the end of the day, these cycles, to do anything really important, I've always said, is 10 years. It takes 10 years. And in today's world of like, oh, I need to do a release every 3 months of some software, every week in some cases of software, 10 years seems like a long time. But look, that's how you build very substantial companies. You know, if you look at, you know, Google 20 years, Apple, how many years and how much it's evolved, it's because they've taken each step along the way with some very pointed vision to the future. But you can't just focus on the dream. You got to focus on the reality too.
You know, looking back at your career, I mean, one of the things that is unusual and very amazing is that you have the record of being a leader, not only of your own company, but also a senior leader of a very large, successful company. And so what do you see, and what kind of would you say to the students who are here about the virtues and the challenges of having an entrepreneurial mindset both in a large company, but also having an entrepreneurial mindset in your own company?
Well, big companies start as small companies. They all started from a seed, right? And that's that same human nature that needs to continue in both the big company when it gets big. And they have to take risks, and they have to, you know, take seedling little ideas and grow them. Too often, companies go, well, we're a big company. You know, if you do this little project, it's not going to move the needle in terms of our revenue and the way people value us. But if we didn't do that at Apple with the iPod, you know, when it was all Mac and it was something, this iPod thing was totally foreign to the entire company, the technology, the product family, the marketing, everything. If we didn't try that little thing, you wouldn't have the iPhone today, or the iPad, or any of those other things, or now AirPods and all the other stuff. You have to start somewhere and believe in it and grow it over time, even if you have some other bigger revenue stream coming in that is, you know, that everybody has to watch. You have to try new things. And so when you're thinking as an entrepreneur, you have to think of it as an entrepreneur in a big company, as well as when you're outside trying to build your own thing, or when you're in a small team in a small company. So you always have to have an eye to the future, assuming that you have a firm enough foundation to build upon so that you're not distracted. Because another thing that happens is you could be too defocused, trying too many things, right? So there's a balance between, you know, being too staid in what you're doing and only innovating within a lane versus creating more lanes. And you have to know when to diversify or when to focus. And that's another thing that you learn that you learn only over time. And there's no class that you can take for that.
Kind of thinking back at your days at the University of Michigan as a student, what was the experience you had here at Michigan that really pushed you to be an inventor, an entrepreneur, and really gave you the drive just to even get into the door of General Magic, but then to succeed? What was it about your experience here?
Well, the first thing was having incredible support, and that was from E sitting here, right here with us, right? Was to have somebody who was just like, okay, crazy kid, go figure it out, right? And just saying, okay, that sounds cool, that sounds cool. And, you know, you go to lots of classes and you go and take your tests and what have you, but it's finding that one person or those two people inside the university who can then really believe in you and help you, give you the environment to say, go and try, right? And that's what was so great about E and his class, was that it was an opening. And it was because it was project-based class. I almost had no other project-based class, except the projects were like, okay, do this project for over 6 weeks, but you got to have some kind of goal, and that was it. Elliot's was more like a blank slate, and said, what do you want to do? And I'm here to support you, and then we're going to grade it based on that. And so that was the opening that I had to be able to do that. So you got to find that person that you resonate with, and then also build a team, because it wasn't just me. I also had Scott Kleiger, and we had other people along the way who said, yeah, we want to do this together. So we had an environment of both teamwork as well as this, this open-ended go for it and try. And, in some cases, we were so ambitious, or I was so ambitious, that I was going to make a full handheld computer, in literally with all my other classes in 4 months. And I tried my best. But then I got the reality of, I didn't just have a teacher go, no, that's dumb. You're never going to get that done in time. It was, go try it. And then I learned, I'm like, oh shit, this is a lot harder than you think. And like, oh, okay, I better scope it down and understand what that project should look like. So those are the kind of things you need to have, is that that's what's the brilliance of the university. And in Ann Arbor, today it's not just about hardware engineering or just about software engineering. It's about bioengineering, where you're taking biology and combining with chips and software. And you have all those resources right there in Ann Arbor to pull them all together. And then maybe you need new semiconductor processing. You can just walk down the hall and talk to that person. Utilize the capabilities inside of Ann Arbor that are there. Go and just talk to people and learn and have this incredible palette, because that is what it's going to take to succeed now. You can't just stay in your lane. You need all of those different disciplines. And you can pull somebody from the business school, somebody from the medical center, somebody from engineering, the School of Art and Architecture, and you can put that together as a team. And that's what's so wonderful. And you can do that as an undergrad, but you got to take the effort and the initiative to do that. It's not going to just appear. You got to find other people in those schools and say, let's go try this thing. And maybe it's the wildest, stupidest idea ever, but you're going to go try it. You're going to fail. And then you're going to, wait a second, I learned something. And that something is probably nothing that any of your other classmates did, because they didn't take that effort. And then you build on that, and you can build on that at the university and maybe at graduate studies, but then also outside of that. And luckily, there's the School for Entrepreneurship. There's the other things that you could go get startup funding and try those things. But keep trying, because people want you to succeed. And there are people all around who are encouraging. And that's why it's wonderful to be there. And remember, if you fail, the worst case you have to do is you go back and live with your parents for a little while. It's a lot harder when you're in your 30s and 40s, if you have a family and kids and everything else, to go, I failed, because you're not going to take those risks. Go take the risks while you can, while you actually have this wonderful palette all around you to try and learn. And the worst case, the worst case, you're still eating pizza and buffalo wings and whatever, and you go back home. So what? That's what you do. It's all cool.
That's great. We have time. I'm going to read questions from the audience. This one's from Sagar T. And the question goes, in hindsight, what would you say was the differentiating factor that made the iPhone successful where General Magic failed? Question, was it market timing or better prioritization inside Apple?
Oh, well, the biggest thing was that society was ready. Society was absolutely ready. And when I mean society, I mean the mindset of people, because they had the internet, they knew what email was, they knew what music was, but then also the capabilities of our society from a technology perspective. We had wireless networks. We had things deployed. People don't remember, and maybe the kids are too young to know, but we only had 2.5G in the first iPhone. It was incredibly painfully slow to download anything. You could hardly stream anything on a wireless network, and if you did, it was very expensive. So we were just at the right time when things were there. So we had to make sure that environment was there. Sure, the ideas were very much the same, and we executed, and we had more discipline. But there was a lot more of the environment ready to allow for the iPhone to happen, right? And so, again, it was a coming together of everything, but the most important part was society was ready, and the technology was kind of lurking in the background. We just had to pull it together in a new way. We had to build our own chips. We had to build all kinds of custom things. It wasn't just Lego blocks to plug together. So we saw it, but we had to, really work hard to put it into a package that would work out.
Okay. And this is from Scott H. It says, does it take huge failures to have all these successes afterwards, or could it have been just success initially if there was more support? earlier on?
So failure comes in many different ways and success comes in different ways. Sometimes it's just dumb luck, okay? And sometimes, Twitter was Twitter, or, Facebook was Facebook because it was a very basic idea, and the mobile revolution took off, right? If we think about it, there was these moments in time, like when the internet first started, there was that first wave, and it was everybody rode that wave, and it could be dumb ideas, but everybody was focused on it, and you were just at the exact right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. And so all the things were there, and it was dumb luck. Like literally, I was 2 years before Larry Page, I think. And that was before the internet revolution happened at the university. So there was no internet revolution at the university at my time. So I stuck with what I knew how to do and pulled it through for all those extra years till it got to that point. The internet stuff happened. Those internet babies who were at the college at exactly the right time learned exactly the right thing, and then it took off. So sometimes, again, it's about the environment and just being at the right place at the right time. For me, I had to work all those extra years to get the technology and watch the technology or live with the technology growing into its real destination. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. I think right now when I look at biomed and bioinformatics and stuff, it's the exact right time to be at the university to learn those things and come out and be able to take the storm that's about to hit and take it there. If you're trying to do quantum computing, I think we're still a decade or more away. So think of quantum computing and all of these things like augmented reality. I think right now you're seeing all these companies coming up. I think they're the general magics of the day. Mm-hmm. And you're going to need 10 more years before it all comes along. But if you're going to do bioinformatics, bioengineering, right now is the time to get into the market, and it's going to be like the internet days of 1995 for that. So it just depends on what you're trying to learn, what you're really interested in, and understanding when's the moment in time for that to be really successful. Now, I think that all the kids growing up inside the quantum computer realm, in 10 years, it's going to be the general magic. Sure, they're going to build those other companies. But they're going to have to learn because the quantum stuff is so hard. They're going to have to learn and have those tough days and see see through failure what the quantum industry is going to come into. But you're not going to just be able to jump into it in 10 years because there's so many details that you have to learn to be able to harness that technology and create new companies with it.
That's interesting. The takeaway that there are going to have to be other general magics that rise and fall so that there could be nests and iPhones that come off of that. And quantum computing may be that type of repeat of history, if you will. This is a related question from Sean S. It says, for college students who aspire to build paradigm-shifting technology and products, what should we be doing now, post-college, to prepare, and how do we find the companies and the people who will best shape our visions of the future? And I'd like you to answer this question too, after Tony does, Elliot.
Well, literally, if it's quantum, you want to go work at go intern at one of these quantum companies. Just go in and figure out and meet people and try to add value. Even if it's, like I said, just soldering things on a board or maintaining and doing systems. Don't think you're going to go be a quantum engineer overnight. Go in and learn from them, earn their trust, earn their respect, and they'll give you more and more over time. If you want to just jump into something and say, okay, I'm going to go and lead a team, they're going to be like, what? Right? It's not, the industry's not that big. It's still it's still kind of a family-like atmosphere. And everybody's sharing and learning together and moving from company to company, competitor to competitor, because they're all just trying to make this vision happen. So you need to just dive in at any level, if that's what your passion is, and get started. Don't wait for the exact right opportunity, because those right opportunities right now are only for those people who've been in it for the last 5 years and have earned the trust of everyone, because it is such a tiny little community. Just get in the community and be part of a growing thing and see where you can go. Don't think that you got to be, a big fish in it. Too many times I see students come out and they think they're God's gift, and they're like, oh, well, I should have all of these things because that's what I'm told. It's like, no, just go learn and do and figure it out and be part of the community, because as this thing grows, there's opportunity. If something is already big, it's a lot less opportunity because there's too much competition. When it's really small and it's growing, they need all kinds of smart people to do all kinds of things, even if it's not what you exactly think you want to do. Go learn and you'll find out what it is, because it's growing so quickly. The holes, the opportunities for you to plug are there. So just get involved and add value and learn and do your time. And I'm sorry, but that's what you got to do if you really want to be in a dramatically changing business or industry, and invest. You got to invest in yourself and the community.
Anything to add, Professor?
Well, just that the issue of collaboration, of students working on multiple projects with multiple people, sometimes the same sorts of people, we don't have enough of that. And we've got to figure out how to do more of that, and cross-disciplinary. I mean, the bio, I work in education. How do we put the education people together with the computer people? We don't do enough of that. And that would then prepare them to go out, I think, and be more, and make an impact. But it's just, there's so much that people have to do in school, we don't have the time to do those projects. But as Tony said, you can't wait. Just go out and do it, and some of the students will do it. But maybe we can create a little more infrastructure to support that.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, if only the dean were here to hear this.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, this is from David E., and it's a little long, but it's worth it, so hang in there with me. In many ways, what I found most interesting about General Magic was how timeless the problems they faced were. Once I see constantly, and I'm guilty of myself as a software engineer student, is to lose focus on the main and sometimes boring, in quotes, project goals in place of the more exciting technological features. So you were one of the first to realize this problem at General Magic, and frankly weren't able to steer your superiors in the right direction. So here's the question. Is there any advice you would give for how to keep a team focused without coming off as short-sighted or ignorant, especially when the team is composed of people you have admiration for?
Wow, that's really good question. So the way I think about this is you need to parcel this up in chunks, like I said before, is go, look, here's the vision, and here's what we need to do along the route to get to that vision. And so if you can't articulate that properly and people don't see it, typically that means those people just want to do what they want to do. So I used to have this thing that I said I never wanted to get a PhD on my team, because all they cared about is the fundamental research and not the practicality of moving that research into the market and seeing it develop and grow and build the vision. All they want to do is stay in their lane and do cutting edge stuff, and they do just enough to get to a demo, and they go, conquered, done, I'm moving on to the next thing, because I showed that that is it. I published my paper, and that's it. Typically, the idea and the things is only 5%, and the fun stuff is only 5% of the work. The other 95% of the work is all the hard stuff to make it real and usable by people who don't have the superpowers like you have. Your job is to take the superpower that you created and disperse it across everybody in the world to give them that superpower. It's not about impressing the engineer or the PhD guy or girl next to you and impressing them and saying, oh, that's cool. It's about taking the knowledge that you have and dispersing across the world and saying, I've now given everybody that superpower. And if you can do that, then you have a superpower, right? If you just stay locked up in your little room and your little team, and you just want to do the very most cutting edge stuff, but not want, and just say publishing a paper is enough, that's just impressing the person next to you, impressing the engineer next to you. It's not about changing the world. 95% of that brilliant idea is going to be the hard work to give that superpower to the rest of the world, to enable them, and then we all move as a species up and can then build the next crazy stuff. So again, just make sure you understand you're not trying to impress people who are sitting next to you. You're trying to enable the world around you.
Great. This question is from Jackie. How did you decide to take a leap and move from Apple to your next adventure, Nest?
Let's see. Well, one was, after 18 generations of the iPod and then the iPhone, the 3 generations, you really got to see okay, I'm just making version 35 of a laptop, right? You're like, okay, I'm doing this over and over. And when you see the iPhone, you're like, oh, it's very clear what's going to happen. It's more speed, it's better displays, it's whatever. And you're like, I've already done that with iPods. That's not what's interesting to me. I need to do something different and take the skills that I've learned and try to apply them somewhere else. Some people love to just, do the same thing every year and make it a little better and a little better. For me, the challenge is taking an unknown and a problem that I see and making it known and fixing it. So for me, I'm always a starter. I'm not the guy who's going to be there 20 years. I'm the guy who's going to be, trying to challenge the status quo. And, it's a bandied about word a lot, but a disruptor. And I just love stirring the pot when there's a problem that needs to be fixed, like the plastics problem in the world. I'm now into plastics. I'm on materials. I'm doing material science and chemistry and biology. Actually, the way we're going to solve our materials problem in the world is in biology, and tons of computers and software and everything to go and create that stuff, and the manufacturing plants behind it. So I'm taking all the things I know and going and applying to a huge problem that I think the globe has. Do I know anything about plastics? Am I a chemie? No. But I'm working with amazing chemies all around me to try to figure that out, and taking all the skills I know, not just about technology, but also about business, to try to fix a global problem that we have with incredibly talented people who are trying to do that as well. And we're out there doing it. So it's about finding a problem that you are passionate about. And you may not have the experience for it, but if you have a problem that everybody else has, and you're working on it passionately with the experience you have, you can find other people, and you're like a magnet. And these things come together, and you're going to figure it out. But start with a problem that you want to solve, that you think a lot of people need solving. And don't worry if you don't have all the skill set. Go and find people who have the same thing. And luckily, you can do that easily online now. You can go find people and read papers and read articles and go pull them together. And it's amazing to me, over the last 2 years of what we've been able to do is pull teams together very quickly when you have the right vision and the right mission and everybody sees the problem. And so we're really trying to tackle something none of us really know how to do. And it's a big challenge, and it's a lot of fun. And we're failing and we're trying, and hopefully we'll succeed. But it's worth it because I think we need it, and our future generations need it. So that's the fun thing, is you just keep trying, and outside of the spaces that you think you're the best at. So you just move on, because doing the same thing over and over for 30, 40, 50 years, for me, that's just not fun. Maybe for other people it is, but for me, it's not.
Great. One more question, and this is from Toby D. If there's one future technology that you would grant to mobile technology right now, what would it be?
Well, this is going to be controversial. I think that we have lots of mobile technology. I think we didn't know what we created. We created this beast of 24/7, everything we wanted all the time. I think what we need to do is understand how to create technology to show what each of us has as impact to our individual selves, like we have quantified self or quantified health, but we're going to have quantified community, quantified society, quantified earth, because we're going to really have to understand the impacts that we are creating on this world. And I'm hopeful that through the mobile technology allows us to get the information about what we're doing to the planet in real time, because, right now we were blind to it, for many, many decades, and we didn't want to see it. We're now seeing it. The more we can communicate our impact and get people inspired using the mobile technology and using, maybe the mobile technology as sensors to help us understand what we're doing and illuminate what we're doing to this planet. We're not going to get to Mars, people. Sorry. I don't care what Elon says. We're going to need this planet, because the only way we're going to get to Mars is if we have a lot of people working on the problem here. And we're going to have to see our individual and societal impact in real time because that's the only way we're going to fix it. Because if it's a problem that always seems like it's 10, 20, 30 years away, you don't fix anything. You need to understand the need. And I'm hopeful that mobile technology will bring that reality of what's going on to the forefront and go, geez, I really need to think about it. It's like having that scale. If you wake up and every morning you check the scale and you want to check your weight and you go, okay, am I on track or not? We need that scale for the planet every day that everybody's watching, going, I need to modulate, I need to fix things for not just yourself, but for our future generations and our kids. So that's what I'm hopeful that we're going to bring through mobile technology right away, because we need it.
What a wonderful way to end our program. And on that note, please join me in thanking Tony Fadell for joining us. Thank you. Great. Okay.
See you guys.
Take care.
Go back to bed, Tony.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to try.
All right. Thanks for coming. That concludes our program. Have a good evening, and be careful out there.